First of all, the highlights.
Nikari.
7 people, including 4 from one family, confirmed dead in a fire incident in the Majengo area of Nairobi, with many others still missing.
Then why do we always then have to target higher than the actual of the last financial year, for example? Because we'll keep on reading a bloated budget.
National Assembly's Budget and Appropriations Committee Chair Ndindi Nyoro criticizes government's tax regime, decrying inflated budgets without delivery of tangible developments.
Kenya, as a president who does not listen to the people of Kenya, acts in the violation of the Constitution and is hell-bent on emasculating Kenyan institutions and the people so that it can rule over us rather than govern as a servant.
Civil society groups claim the country is at a worse state compared to when President William Ruto took power in 2022, accusing the president of state capture. Thousands of Kenyans flock Machakos to enroll with the government's overseas national job recruitment program, aimed at securing employment for over 20,000 skilled and unskilled Kenyans.
Nimepata kazi at least, sijajua ni mshahara upi, but ile kazi nimepata, naomba Mungu iwe kazi ile inaweza ni upkeep na watoto wangu.
Now, welcome to the program. I am Ian Keitani, and our sign language interpreter is Clement Moli. Remember, you can watch this bulletin live across our social media platforms at K24 TV. We begin our bulletin now, and 7 people, including 4 from one family, have been confirmed dead in a fire incident in Majengo area of Nairobi. Several others are receiving treatment, while others are still missing. Although the official cause of the fire is yet to be established, residents claim that an electrical fault may have sparked the blaze. Majibu Kitsao visited the scene of the tragedy and filed the following report.
Charred iron sheets, fallen like lifeless ruins, burnt clothing remnants and household items scattered about stand as permanent scars of the fire tragedy that devastated residents of Kitui village in the Majengo area of Nairobi. Some residents stand at a distance, their eyes fill with shock and grief, trying to comprehend the destruction that struck yesterday evening. Questions linger in their minds. Why us? Why this? Their faces are etched with sorrow, their silent cries echoing a profound pain. Lives built through sweat and hard work are now turned to ashes.
Ilikuwa moto ambao hata uwezi ukaokoa chochote, hata ikiwa ni sindano au kijiko. Vitu vyote ambavyo tulikuwa navyo wale wamehadhirika kwa hii moto, hakuna mmoja hata mmoja ambao ameokoa kitu chake.
7 people have died, including 4 from the same family, a father and his 3 children, aged 6, 4, and just 1 year old. The grief is unimaginable. It is said that out of love and courage, the father ran back into the house to save his children, but unknowingly rushed towards his own death. Witnesses claim he was found clutching one of his children in his arms, fighting to the very last breath. Matrin, the mother of the children, is overcome with grief.
Kitu kanipiga. Sijui. Nataka kuingia kwa hiyo moto niokoe familia yangu. Kitu kanipiga. Nikafendi. Anamgaa akaniambia atakuwekelea makofi na unaona moto imefanya nini? Imeshika, kanisukuma.
Kama niweke kwa peke yake. Mimi naishi hapa miaka mingi. Watoto wanaendelea hapa, baba yao kama anakufa. Mwenye alikufa.
The story of Sarah Okwisa, the grandmother of the children, is deeply heartbreaking. Even in her old age, her tears do not stop and her voice trembles with anguish as she recounts the events of yesterday.
Alikuwa anataka kutoka, nikamshinda kutoka. Sasa ndio tukakaa kwa hiyo kanisa tukakuja. Sasa nilikuwa nataka kumuona yule anaingiza kwa mwili kwa Land Rover, akaniambia mama siangalie mwili ya mtoto.
The pain is incomprehensible. Every word she speaks is heavy with sorrow. Every breath laden with the burden of losing her lineage.
Sasa mimi niweke maombi tu kwa miaka yangu hii. Niweke maombi pekee. Sio njia ingine.
More than 10 people are reportedly receiving treatment in various hospitals near the scene, while others remain missing. The residents blame the county government's fire brigade for arriving late at the scene and are urging the government to establish a fire station nearby to help avert future fire disasters.
Kama serikali wanaweka fire karibu na hapa, waweke ili tusaidie watu wengine. Tuko na hiyo shida ya moto ndugu yangu. Muangalie vile mtasaidia familia. Ni vibaya kama familia moja inapoteza watoto watatu.
Nikali.
This tragedy has left many with countless questions about where to begin after losing almost everything. For some, all they are left with is their lives and their faith in God. But why do incidents like this continue to happen, especially in informal settlements? Majibu Kitsao for K24 TV, Majengo area, Nairobi.
Indeed, a very sad state of affairs. Let's talk matters economy now. On the National Assembly's Budget and Appropriations Committee Chair Ndindi Nyoro has expressed solidarity with the distressed Kenyans who are voicing concerns about the current state of the economy. In a surprising turn of events, Ndindi, who has been a steadfast supporter of the Kenya Kwanza government, is now criticizing its tax regime. According to him, the government in every financial year presents an inflated budget without delivering on tangible developments. This comes even as the National Treasury maintains that the country's economy has rebounded, citing a decrease in the annual inflation rate to its lowest since 2010, following a reduction in fuel, food and utility prices. Linda Koskei tells us more.
Commodity prices have come down, and we have also passed the effects of monetary policy tightening.
While the government continues to portray an optimistic view of the economy's performance, many Kenyans are experiencing a stark contrast, acutely aware of the challenges they face in their daily lives.
We had not anticipated this cost of living.
I'm not afraid to pay taxes. In fact,
let's allow others to also ask.
What we are paying does not equal to the services we are getting. Thank you.
The Budget and Appropriations Committee Chair Ndindi Nyoro, who has long been a defender of the Kenya Kwanza government, has now questioned its tax regime.
And forgive me, I'm just sharing my thoughts, because that is what we came to do here. We keep doing the same mistake all the time. For the last 10 years, our ordinary revenue has only been achieved 67%. For the last 10 years on average. To a low of 56%, the highest has been 75%.
Ndindi further accused the government for consistently drafting what he termed as a bloated budget that does not address the needs of Kenyans.
Planning.
Ndindi further accused the government of consistently drafting what he termed as a bloated budget that does not address the needs of Kenyans.
Then why do we always then have to target higher than the actual of the last financial year, for example? Because we'll keep on reading a bloated budget, a budget that then we never ever, for the last 10 years, have been able to fund.
According to National Treasury Principal Secretary Chris Kipto, however, the government's fiscal consolidation policy over the medium term aimed at reducing the country's deficit while promoting sustainable growth and designed to slow down growth in public debt.
4.2 trillion in the budget as expenditure. When we went back to Parliament to seek approval in June this year, our budget deficit, our expenditure had been reduced from 4.2 to 4 trillion. We removed a whole 200 billion in areas we found we could reduce.
Ndindi, however, disagrees with this.
We're in that kind of situation we would expect them to have, if revenue raises by 10% on average, nominally, we would expect then when we have radical revenue raising measures, then you will have like a 25% jump. Unfortunately, it's not there.
The public hearings on the 2025-2026 budget enters day 2 tomorrow, with Kenyans eager to express their thoughts, hoping that the government will heed their call. Linda Koskei, K24 TV.
Now, civil society groups now say the country is at a worse state compared to when President William Ruto took power in 2022. Joining other groups that have called out the government for failing in its promises to the people, the civil society has accused the president of the state of state capture, saying the legislature has been bent to serve the executive. Brian Moy reports on a report dubbed the People's Report ahead of the State of the Nation address tomorrow.
As President William Ruto prepares to deliver the State of the Nation address in Parliament tomorrow, civil society organizations have accused him of being out of touch with the challenges facing the ordinary Kenyans. They claim his speech, like previous ones, will fail to address the pressing issues currently affecting the country. The organizations have rated the president's performance as poor, stating that the country is worse off than it was when he took office. They joined other critics in branding Ruto's administration as one of broken promises.
This is not supposed to be a feel-good statement from the president. It should be what actually is obtaining in the country with respect to inclusion, human rights, equity, devolution, every aspect of it that needs to be covered. Because when the president is giving that State of the Nation report, he has a tendency of turning it to a baraza, like you're talking to people in a baraza. But this is a technical report of the State of the Nation, and it's clearly outlined in Article 132.1 and Article 10, and the provisions of how it should be gazetted and how it is submitted for debate by the National Assembly on each aspect as outlined.
The Kenya Kwanza government has been accused of overseeing the decline of critical sectors such as healthcare and education. According to the groups, Kenyans are now forced to pay out of pocket for medical expenses, despite promises of affordable healthcare. They further argue that the government's flagship social health insurance fund remains dysfunctional, even as the head of state insists that issues are being addressed.
We believe the main reason the country is headed in the wrong direction is because Kenya, as a president who does not listen to the people of Kenya, acts in the violation of the Constitution, and is hell-bent on emasculating Kenyan institutions and the people so that it can rule over us rather than govern as a servant.
The edible oil scandal, the fake fertilizer scandal, the Adani deals, among others, and for which to date there has been no action. Anti-corruption agencies, specifically the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, seem to have run out of energy, direction or conviction in the fight against corruption.
They further contend that the real state of the nation should highlight the rise in abductions and alleged state-sponsored excessive force by the police. This comes in the wake of Gen Z protests in June and July this year, which saw young people demand for institutional reforms. During the protests, some demonstrators breached parliament grounds, underscoring the level of frustrations among citizens. The groups further claim that the education system is also in disarray, with the competency-based curriculum transition sparking heated debates. Lecturer strikes have also paralyzed learning in universities, leaving students stranded.
The bare minimum we expect from him is to tell us how he's going to deal with the mess which all of us have raised. Because I think from this we can even say we have gone like 10 steps backwards. So we are talking about a regime which has scored like 1 out of 10.
According to the groups, the high cost of living and the inability of many Kenyans to meet their daily needs represents the true state of the nation. They are to this end calling on the president to focus not only on his administration's achievements, but on the challenges facing ordinary Kenyans, since in their view, that is the real state of the nation. Brian Amuai, K24, Nairobi.
From one arm of government being condemned to another, and the Law Society of Kenya has trailed its guns on the judiciary over claims of bribery and corruption. the independent arm of government, which is supposed to be the country's last line of defense, has been blasted for disregarding Kenyans and not being so accountable. According to LSK President Faith Odhiambo, this very serious accusations have eroded the public trust within the judicial system. With the judiciary on the spot in recent months, as a section of Kenyans slam the independent arm of government of being in bed with the executive, 2 weeks after President William Ruto's perceived onslaught on the judiciary during the Supreme Court at 12 conference, the Law Society of Kenya has slammed the judiciary, citing lack of transparency.
There are credible allegations of institutionalized corruption within the judiciary, which is increasingly undermining public confidence and trust. The complaints pointing towards unfettered bribery and unethical conduct by judicial officers has continued to weaken and undermine the justice system, and at the same time erode the credibility and effectiveness of the judiciary. All this is happening in the backdrop of a diminishing confidence in the judiciary. All surveys and pertinent complaints from our members point at a complacent judiciary that cannot defend itself from allegations of runaway corruption within its ranks.
The society has called on the judiciary to develop frameworks of dealing with complaints and engaging more with Kenyans to ensure easier ways of tracking cases.
We demand that the judiciary must raise up to give the Constitution its essence and substance in achieving the objects of nation building, state accountability, and the rule of law. We demand a transparent process for tracking, expeditious resolution of complaints, involvement of the Law Society in collection, collation, and inquiry of complaints. We demand that the Judicial Service Commission should take leadership with the effective involvement of the Law Society to develop a framework for complaints handling, inquiry, case tracking, resolution, and reporting to members of the public.
With the Inspector General of Police, Douglas Kanja, a week ago, noting that 57 cases of abductions have been reported since June, LSK lamented over the abductions and killings of Kenyans during the anti-finance bill demonstrations, calling on the Independent Policing Oversight Authority (IPOA) and the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights to conduct thorough investigations and bring the perpetrators to book. The society also raised concerns over the abduction of Uganda's opposition figure Kizza Besigye, who was scheduled to attend Martha Karua's book launch in Nairobi over the weekend. The society has called on the international community to intervene, saying the same amounts to sovereignty violations.
And we strongly condemn in the strongest terms, because it either means that our government is not in control of security in this nation, or that we are working in collaboration with external parties to abduct people within the borders of Kenya and extradite them, which is against not only our local but also international laws, conventions, which Kenya has signed and ratified.
Odhiambo did not spare the executive also, accusing it of inaction in addressing the rising insecurity, including the never-ending cases of extrajudicial killings.
We therefore call out our state institutions, especially the executive, that has paid lip service about their zeal for the rule of law and higher morality, when state action points at a paranoid state that fears any critical thought by its people. We have heard from testimonials by the Inspector General that persons are abducted and kept in detention allegedly beyond the reach of the security agencies established under Article 239 of the Constitution.
Well, that story takes us to our first breather. We'll be back in a moment. Don't go away.
As the sun rises, so do we, as we trust it to rise and set without any worries interrupting your day. StarTime's home solar solution with solar panels, hybrid inverter, and lithium battery.